All right, we'll call this workshop to order. Okay, this workshop is to provide proposals and presentations in response to a formal and informal request for proposals related to the volunteer management and operations of the community center.
Did you just say formal and informal?
No, informal. I meant to say informal. I did, yes I did, but I meant to say informal. The informal request for proposals requested individuals, community organizations, and or nonprofits that were willing to volunteer for the management of the community center and development, implementation, and operation of related programs to submit a proposal. Advertisement began in September 20th, and the deadline to submit those proposals October 18th. At this point in time, this workshop is intended to allow life fitness consultants a 30-minute time period to present their proposed proposal and to allow the remainder of the workshop for discussion and questions by the BOCC. So at this point in time, there's one other thing additionally I'd like to add. Let me finish up reading this and then we'll get started. The only proposal received, is from Lifetime Consultants, Drs. Lynn Arts and James Hillier, and provides the following: experience in operating, managing a community center, community programs, vision for the community center, short and long-term goals for the project, plans for operation and management, cost sharing, grants, donations, description of types and benefits of programs offered. We've also got Life Consultants proposal included the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth as a collaborative partner. However, WCCWY did not provide a proposal due to their recent receipt of notice that the Florida Ounce Prevention Grant was being funded, which is your attachment 3. The focus of the Ounce Prevention Grant is to establish a one-stop center to serve children and families, and for which WCCY anticipates using the community center. It should be noted that at this time staff has not received a copy of the grant agreement to include operations, programs, grant amount, etc. Lastly, staff anticipates the proposer to enter into a one-year agreement upon services and programs pursuant to the RFP presentation and proposal. The agreement will include an option for renewal on a year-by-year basis. Also note, we anticipate bringing back an agenda item on the December 9th, 2013 to approve the agreement between the proposer and the county. So, with that...
So there's only one proposal submitted?
One proposal. That's right, but there's both of them are going to... Ms. Arch is going to go ahead and present, and then we'll let WCCY tell us about their grant as well.
Hopefully it will be done shortly after 5,
right.
Not too far, so I give everybody a chance to eat before the meeting.
Ms. Arch,
no pressure.
You got the floor. You've got the floor.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you to everyone who's here to listen. Were any of you surprised that there was only one proposal? Okay. Well, how many of you actually read the proposal? Okay. Good. If you haven't read every word of it, I would encourage you to at least read the cover letter, because I think that has some pretty important concepts. But let me go ahead and start. I got to do two-handed here now. Okay. So we submitted a proposal for volunteer management of the community center for up to 1 year, and for that we would manage on a volunteer basis for up to 1 year a specified set of community center operations and programs. Now, when we submitted our proposal, we also included WCCY, which, as you've heard, has been told that they will receive funds for grant management of a one-stop center, and they are actually hoping to receive funding on an annual basis and have an expanding set of community center operations and programs for up to 5 years. So we felt it was important to include them in our presentation, even though they are not offering volunteer management. So what we see is joint management with Life Fitness, the name of my husband's company, which for liability purposes we did that, and then WCCY on a grant-funded basis. We made the recommendation that the county have an agreement with each entity, and then we'll have an agreement between ourselves. And we're so excited about the Ounce of Prevention grant. This will provide for some paid staff, also money that will help defray utility expenses at the community center, and will greatly expand the offerings that will occur there. Plus, it resolves the problem of what happens after our year is up. Because even though we have a chance to renew, apparently, I'm only in this for a year. So this provides a wonderful, we can transition over, as they're expanding their programs, we can transition into them. But what I want to do, there are lots of different things I could talk about from the proposal, but what I want to focus on are the programs, because for me that's what it's all about. What are we going to be able to offer the citizens of Wakulla County in the near future? And in the proposal and in this presentation, I have grouped the programs into 4 categories. So the first of those is the Wakulla County Recreation Department. I'm going to talk about each one separately. And we sat down and talked with Brian Roddenberry, and we wanted to make sure that as much as he wanted to do there, we wanted to see happen there, but we also recognized that they have a very small staff and have a full program at the rec park. So if they didn't have the ability, we wanted to be aware of that too. And what Brian said that he thought they would be interested in, able to offer, would this coming summer a summer bath gram offered for about five weeks, and so that would take place, this registration this spring and then in the early summer. And then the winter basketball program that's already in existence will not be at the community center this winter. They've already got commitments at the schools, so that would not be until 2014, 2015. But at that point, they would hope to move over to the community center with the Park and Rec basketball program. I'm sorry, I am not doing, I'm trying to follow on my computer, but I'm not letting you see.
Lift your hand for us.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, Jim, will you help make sure that I'm the same thing as here?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, he'll speed me up too much, I think. Okay. All right, so this is what I was describing about the summer basketball program and the winter basketball program. All right, and now we're going to talk about the programs that Life Fitness consultants, Jim Hillier and myself, are specifically proposing to develop. And this is the list. I'm going to talk briefly about each program, but I do want to emphasize that this list of programs and facility development is all going to be done on a volunteer basis. So for that reason, I want people to understand that they should be viewed as intentions and not as guaranteed deliverables. The first of those programs is the Basketball Fund, which will be for 3 different age groups, 3 days a week, 1 hour per age group, starting in February. And this will be a program that Jim is responsible for developing and overseeing. And he will also have a volleyball fund program, which will be the same age groups on the other 2 days of the week, Tuesday and Thursday, for 1 hour per day. And that's, again, that's what Jim is two of the programs he'll be responsible for. Now, one that I'm hoping to develop and am very excited about is the preschool program that'll meet daily from 12:30 to 1:30, 5 days a week, on an ongoing basis, no fee, for children ages 1 to 4, accompanied by an adult caregiver. And we'll focus on letter sounds, phonic awareness, reading, readiness, teaching parents how to read aloud to their children, and encouraging reading. So I think this will be a fun program. Then this one's really ambitious. This is an after-school program for children in grades K through 12, and the hours that we're K through 8, sorry. And we're envisioning this being a daily program from 2 to 6 during the school year. Again, no fee. One of the things, we are going to need a lot of volunteers to run this program. So initially, what I would propose doing is having the program open to parents, children whose parents are willing to volunteer to help with the program. And that way we'll have some volunteers and we can kind of work out the details and the kinks of the program before we expand it to a broader pool that would include, priority-wise, children who have working parents and who are not currently in an after-school program somewhere else.
Kids that are getting off the bus and going inside, for example, by themselves.
Right, the latchkey kids, And we've had conversations with the supervisor of the school district about being able to have at least some children brought to the community center from their schools. And this program may not be as top-notch as the 21st century learning program, but what we're envisioning would be a 1 hour of physical activity, and we would have 4 15-minute blocks of fun activities that it would kind of be a circuit that the kids would rotate through to accumulate a total of 1 hour. Then we'll have an hour of quiet time where they would be doing reading, homework, drawing, tutoring if we can arrange that. And then the rest of the time would be for lots of play stations that they could rotate through. And so again, this is ambitious, but I think we can do it. We're also hoping to develop a teen center for, you can see the ages, that initially would be open on Friday and Saturday evenings from 6 to 10. And we really want teenagers to be involved in helping to create this. So we need to find a mentor, a leader, a supervisor, an adult who's willing to kind of oversee, but somebody along the lines of like Lisa Russell, who used to be at the high school with the sheriff's office, or Sherry Kraft, who loves working with teenagers, somebody like that.
You have to volunteer.
We have a group of people who have already expressed interest in being involved, but I'm looking for kind of a volunteer coordinator, mentor for this. And along the same lines, we would be having this group of teenagers who are creating the teen center also initiate a number of activities, whether it's dances or concerts or whatever. So now this is another thing that Jim has already been working on, and we have had some people who are willing to donate heavy duty, like commercial grade fitness equipment. This is used equipment. And he would like to find a little corner and have a little circuit that wouldn't be available on any kind of a membership or whatever basis. It would be used for specific health programs, like for seniors, for example, or for parents during their children's activities. So if we have a child come for the basketball fun, that if they want, while their child's doing that, the parent could spend an hour working with the weights. And then we would also like to use it as a reward for community center volunteers, that they would have access to it. So this would have limited access. We need to figure out very carefully where this would be based, because this is heavy equipment, and if it's brought in, we don't want to have to move it. And this is an example of some of the other pieces.
Most of them will be Nautilus equipment, which I'm sure you're all familiar with.
Okay, so Jim's in charge of that project. And then I want to work, especially once some of the programs get established, I really want to work on expanding the outside facilities. So I know we've talked about developing an 8-foot wide multi-use trail. Well, it'll take a while to get that in place, but I have an Eagle Scout who's willing, as his Eagle Scout project, to map out and measure a trail, to put signage so people know where the trail is and how far they've gone, maybe build some benches or whatever. So, and his whole scout troop actually may end up taking on different projects. So I think this is exciting. I have really big hopes and dreams for the playground that I may not be able to achieve in a year, so I'm not going to talk about those. But I do want to accept that I'm going to work on it. And then I do want to talk about fitness zones, because there's a program offered by the Trust for Public Lands that is designed to increase the use and health benefits of parks. And they have this program going in different states, and some counties in Florida are already participating. And basically, they come in as the project manager, select a site, do all the equipment, procurement, installation, and so forth, and they line up 50% of the cost to set up. It's an outdoor, basically, fitness center. And I'll show you a couple examples of them. They can really vary in the number of pieces of equipment and the kind of surfaces that you put them on. These have to be bolted really deep into the ground so they'll be secure. And the estimate, if you got an 8-piece set, which this one you can see is only 4, but ballpark for that is $80,000-$90,000, and they would provide half of that, so $40,000 to $45,000. So I don't know if I can find a way to come up with the other half, but I'm going to be working on that. I'm sorry. I'm not doing this well. I apologize. So
$80,000 or $90,000 and sort of that?
yeah, to purchase these, well, the whole thing, the equipment, the installation. I'm sorry. I'm looking at them on my screen and not showing you.
What kind of grade is it? Depends on how many pieces of equipment you have as to how much it will cost.
And these can be, they can be designed to be handicap usable and so forth. So I think it's an exciting program, and since we aren't going to have the indoor fitness equipment like the Y had proposed, and that is one of the community's desires, this is an alternative that I think would be, again, accessible by anybody, any income, great flexibility about what time of day and so forth.
That's a little bit more than what we have at Azalea Park. Don't we have some
Got some stuff.
stations you go around?
Yeah, in Thomasville, one of the parks in Thomasville has the same thing, and have a walking trail near it, and it's unbelievable amount of folks that go there.
One in
For the
Tallahassee I
outdoor-
know of, too.
They'll actually use the outdoor stuff. It's really neat.
And yeah, this isn't the park course. This is more equipment that you would It's less calisthenic type stuff and more like weight training equipment. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the third category and talk about community partners. We did circulate surveys, made a lot of outreach, meetings, phone calls, trying to find out who was interested in having access to the facilities and offering some kinds of programs there. And this is the current list of people that have committed. I'm really excited about having the Y being willing to offer summer camp. So for as long as we wanted them here, they could be here all summer, full days to help working parents. Now, again, they charge a fee for camp, but they don't turn anybody away. So those fees help to subsidize the kids who can't afford to attend. So I think I think there's a shortage of camps here, and I think this is a nice option for us to consider pursuing. I'm also excited about this core program because it's a family health and nutrition program. So children 5 and older attend with a caregiver, a parent, a grandparent, and they learn and do things together. So that program's available in Leon County, and they've had a lot of interest in having it available here. They get referrals. They try to attract maybe people who are children who are at risk for diabetes or whatever, so that they get referrals from physicians and things like that. I'm also really excited about this particular yoga instructor who is willing to teach classes for free. She'll accept donations but isn't going to charge anything. And in addition to classes for adults, which there are plenty of, she's going to offer classes for children, which I think is wonderful. Then we have a number of people who are offering more kind of classroom-based activities. I think this first one, creative writing for children, is going to be really fun for the children who participate in that. And most of these would be in the building that the sheriff's office is currently occupying. And then we have some other community partners like Palaver Tree Theater, who wants to do theatrical productions and film screenings, art classes. We'd like to have Boy Scout troops meeting there, and hopefully Girl Scouts too. I just haven't had that commitment yet. And then a junior garden club who would outside, starting in February, be growing vegetables and learning where their food comes from. So this is our current list of community partners, but I think we see this expanding. And there are some partners that, for example, the health department, that has a whole lot of programs, support groups, want to do health fairs, but they're actually now lined up to be a subcontractor with the ounce of prevention grant, so I didn't muddy the waters by having them listed here too. Same thing with NAMI. And then we've had good conversations with places like Body Tech and Wakulla Dance Academy and Taekwondo, and I think there's interest, but questions need to be answered. And there's some concern about those programs would have to charge, and they don't know whether people would pay at that location. But maybe as a subcontractor in the future with ounce of prevention grant, potentially it could expand to that. And that brings me to the one-stop center, and Bruce and maybe Gail will talk to you a little bit more about that. But initially, this is the list of the 6 subcontractors who would receive grant funds to help provide to pay for personnel to come to the center to deliver these programs. and I'll let them talk about these programs to the extent that they want. You'll note that it includes the library, so a lot of the children's activities that are currently offered at the library, they would also be doing similar kinds of things at the community center. And the sheriff's office, Bruce will talk more about, wants to do an athletic program with youth, pairing them up with deputies and in the gymnasium. So, okay, so this is kind of, those are the things I've talked about briefly, the various programs that would be offered. So let's talk about the hours of operation. And our goal would be to have the center open as many hours as possible. And for the specific programs and activities that we would be doing, actually it would be weekdays from 12:30 until 9. I made an error there. And then weekends all day Saturday and Sunday afternoon. And again, it would require Jim and I to be opening and closing the facility, but also volunteers to help staff during some of those hours. And I want to just show you the layout. In addition to the gymnasium, these are the existing buildings. And I want, just in case you aren't real familiar with the layout, if you go to the bottom on the left is the entrance lobby. And there are 2 offices, one on either side. Then the meeting hall, there's the stage, and then I wasn't aware there's a fairly large back room behind the stage. And then there's the gymnasium. And I tried to do a schedule that looks at what would be going on in each of those buildings, at least early on. And this would give you a sense, like in the gymnasium would be used by the after-school program, and the basketball and volleyball fun, although I think, and we would look to coordinate. So if there's somebody in the after-school program who wants to do the basketball fun and instead of doing the hour of physical activity, they could go and do that. In the assembly hall, that's where the preschool program and the after-school program would mainly be based. The entrance lobby, if Ounce of Prevention, as soon as they have their staff and their subcontractors and are in, they would be able to staff during the day, even earlier than we would, and use those offices I pointed out to the side of the entrance lobby. And then there's the whole office building that once the sheriff's office moves out, then I think Ounce of Prevention and a lot of classroom programs will be in there. And even places where I've said, like the assembly hall or the gymnasium would be closed, if there are community partners who want to use them, we would arrange for that. Friday is the same schedule except the teen center. That's the only difference there. Saturday, it would basically be the gymnasium and the teen center. And then Sunday, just the gymnasium. So that's kind of how I would envision these buildings being used. Okay. I did pretty well. That's about a half hour.
Are you done?
Yeah. So, I mainly wanted to focus on the programs and the hours of operation. I'm sure that, there are a lot of other things we had to talk about in the proposal, but I thought I would just let you all ask questions about the things that you're concerned about. And I think, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, I was going to let them talk about the Ounce of Prevention project and then maybe open it up to questions. Okay?
Can I make one statement? Okay, I went out to get sponsors, local sponsors, like for the basketball programs. And after 2 or 3 said to me, well, are you sure that this is going to happen? And I said, I can't promise you it's gonna happen, that will be up to the county commission. But they were hesitant to make a commitment, and their reason was, well, there's been so much about the community center gonna open, and then it ain't gonna open, and they're gonna do this and that. So I would ask you please to not put your decisions off, so we can go back and cash in on these things.
Well, it's going to be on their first meeting in December.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't know that.
And similarly, I know people want to know if they can schedule things, and currently I have no authority to schedule anybody for anything. So I just we're in a hold pattern, but we've done a lot of work, and we'll continue to do work as long as it looks like some of this will achieve fruition. I do want to introduce one person, because our efforts depend so much on volunteers. I was delighted when I had somebody volunteer to be our volunteer coordinator. So I want to introduce Lane Davis to you.
Oh.
And there was things in the proposal that she helped to write, and she's available to ask to answer questions also.
Bruce. Hi, Commissioners. Always thank you for your service, and thanks for the workshop. I brought you each a package. I brought you each a package of documents that will
Thank you.
hopefully give you some clarification on where the coalition is, and I'll go through these. I'll go through these with you very quickly. I don't think I need a half hour, Mr. Chairman. And I could start by letting you know that the coalition has been around for 12 years, and some of the things that we've accomplished, I could run through a whole list. We're currently funding, we just recently funded a back-to-school initiative in Hudson Park. We brought Farm Share to the county, which is now regularly delivering as a key partner to area food pantries. We've done Operation Santa now for 4 years. We wrote the grant and obtained funds for the first Empty Bowls project to feed food deficient folks in the county. We submitted a grant recently with help and assistance by Madeline Carr to further the community center in structure and remodeling and so forth. We've also been involved in the Party Patrol grants in the county, prevention partnership grant for social norms in 2 middle schools, class action curriculum counseling at the high school, grant for fearless youth leaders, a grant funding the photojournal op that is currently underway. Pal Evertree is a member and has been granted funds for that project. Herb Donaldson and his efforts. Hawk Healing Arts of Wakulla wrote a grant to assist the arts at Eden Springs and Wakulla Senior High on life portraits. Annually published the Spring Wakulla News insert dealing with summer camps and summer programs. We twice published a resource directory for all services available to all communities in the county. We've implemented throughout the county a social norms campaign on health and wellness holistically, implemented throughout the county. We've written grants that's assisted disaster buckets recently through Volunteer Wakulla, and we've written grants on a couple of occasions that have moved NAMI programs forward. And that's just a sum of what we've done in the last couple of years. We're not a program. The coalition doesn't do programs. We bring partners together, we apply for grants, and we get actions initiated through a variety of the 35 organizations that make up the coalition. And I'm very pleased at what I've heard tonight, because we're really about the same thing. And from the time, if you look at the package I gave you, on the top is a document that shows you that in November of 2011, the coalition applied for a grant when the talk in the community was getting a community center. We had an existing grant to do something with that had been languishing, And so the coalition saw that opportunity to apply for a grant. At that time, the YMCA was partnered in discussion with entering an agreement with the county, and so that initial grant application included them because the county had indicated. All of that occurred after the coalition facilitated a survey in the community of what the community wanted to see at a community center. We have always been about a community-centered activity of all kinds. Limitless, no limits whatsoever. All programs that will help children, families, citizens, elders, adults. There was no limit. It is not a program. It was a holistic approach. In the second document that you'll see in your package was where the county commission endorsed that original grant application. It was cited in the third document in your package as a model for community centers in rural counties. That is a community center with all aspects of activity for healthy lifestyles, health, wellness, athletics, activities, children, fun, as well as services of all kinds. Could be found, could be participated in, could be accessed at a community center. We didn't have a community center, so it was based on that concept, and it was signed off on, and we got positive reinforcement for that body of work in 2011. We didn't get funded. And so the timelines of all the other happenings and the gracious offer to volunteer came about. We got notified that we were getting funded 2 days after. We've still not been awarded a contract. It would be a little premature to submit a proposal to you to manage something that has yet to be secured, that has yet to be finalized. For the past 8 weeks, since September 24th, every day, members of the coalition have been working, writing, calling back and forth the Department of Health and Outset Prevention Fund in Tallahassee. And at the time they notified us on September 24th, we were getting funded, which I still feel uncomfortable saying that publicly because we do not have a contract, we do not have money, that we needed to rewrite and amend our grant application to where we are today. And that's what we did. We started rewriting all of the original concept where we are today. The reason you'll see 6 key partners in that application who are members of the coalition is those 6 key partners are immediately ready to come in and do deliverables and do the deliverable that accounts for the money being given to us that makes it reimbursable. And as we understand grants, right now that grant application is 2 reams thick. 2 reams of paper, about 6 inches. And we are still finalizing that. We tried to get you a status today from the people at Outset Prevention, and we did not get a call back to give us indication of what we could come and tell you. But I assure you, if you look at the document, you will see a proposed budget. In that proposed budget, on the 4th document you have, there is money for maintenance of that building, that whole grounds over there. There is money for electrical. There is money for staffing. There are jobs associated with this grant application. And yes, one of them is a director of the community center. One is a volunteer coordinator for the community center. We've got all the integrity documentation to say that that's an integrity process. Insurance is accounted for in the budget. So we're trying to look as a coalition, and we have a board of governing directors. We could not come forward and say we're asking to do something or be a formal and enter a formal agreement with the county without this coming a little closer to being an awarded contract, and without our board of governors saying yes, we agree to do that. Just like we would come to you and say we would like you to consider an agreement for the coalition to occupy and manage and do those things over there. If you read through the proposal and you read through the grant application, we're all basically talking about the same thing. We're all talking about the same thing. The language is there. The language in the proposal came from the grant. So I applaud everybody in this room as wanting and seeing a vision for a vibrant, all accessible, all inclusive, all activities community center. Because I think we're all after the same thing at this point. And we have that vision and we have that ability. I just cannot go and say until we have a contract. So, but I'm willing to answer any questions you've got.
Ms. Arts, you want to come back up? Ralph, do you have any specific questions you want to ask that you have written down or anything?
Well, maybe the budget. Are there any holes in the budget? You mentioned it's covering salaries and utilities and things like that. Is that on a prorated share, or tell me how the grant will allow that?
The grant.
Bruce, can I speak to that?
Sure.
The budget was an 8-month budget when it was proposed. The clock is ticking. We're now in the 7th month. We had hoped to have a contract before this meeting, actually. So it is prorated, yes. And are there holes in it? Yes. Right now, it's $252,000 that's on the table with them. We have no idea what they're going to fund.
Mhm.
But the latest question had to do with transportation, and it had to do with the $10,000 that we've budgeted for transportation, and we needed to justify that, and we needed to respond to them by last Friday, and the response back was, if that has to go, we will be prepared to defend it with the next submission, which will be in April of this coming year, for the next full year of funding. Every year you reapply. So the program as it looks today is very different in the second year than it is in the 7 months remaining through the end of July of next year. Did that make sense, what I just said?
It did.
So the $10,000 is not on the table. We think that's going to be scrapped.
Right. But I'm looking more for, if we're paying utilities, is it utilities for the whole facility, 7 days a week, or is it a prorated share, or?
The numbers that were used in the budget were based on conversations. Originally, 2 years ago when it was put together, it was a conversation with, I could look back in the notes, Bruce said it is a file that thick. Look back to see who I talked to in the county, but it was based on what the utilities were at that time, which was a $2,000 number. That's what I was given by someone in the county office. Now, there's a brand new gym now, and there's, it's occupied. It wasn't occupied at all at that time. And so we put in $3,000 based on a fair recommendation. Will that cover the whole freight? I don't know.
And the insurance was likewise done the same way.
But sounds like there's some flexibility that budget can be modified once you know the amount of the award and the amount of the cost, and we'll have to work around.
We have been advised by the ounce people that we can move some money, that we have that ability.
Okay.
I guess your plan is to cover the budget of the heating and air and the insurance, even though your numbers may or may not be correct, but your plan would be to cover those. Is that?
I'm not going to say that.
Okay, that's
I'm
fine.
not prepared to say
You can't
that.
promise that we can
No,
do.
I understand that, and I respect your not answering that question, because you were really good. But
But I will tell you that right now, there's $3,000 a month for utilities. That's a solid number. There's $750 a month for maintenance. There is money in there for insurance on some level. Is it enough?
Okay,
Likely not.
I understand that, and
Yes.
thank you for that answer. But my question, I guess, was the same as Ralph. How do you propose to get these children to this center? That's going to be your largest
Yeah,
problem.
well, we've discussed, we've got school buses right now that come by there. There are 3 or 4 that can make a stop there that we can work out, because one of the governing board members of the coalition is the school assistant superintendent. So she is plugged in and aware that transportation is a factor in our community for a lot of participation in a lot of things. We're fully ready to start gathering the data from day one, so that in April we might be able to rectify it in a big way. But right now, we've got multiple school buses that can make that stop, and then we have to work out the children getting picked up. But we realize transportation to have people get to the community center, that's going to exist to start with. I don't think we can eliminate that being a concern for some families.
Yeah, and you'll have to go out in the community to do it. I hear a lot of people in Panacea say our children are are not being
I get
properly,
the same
whatever.
question, Commissioner. They want us to bring programs to Panacea.
Well, no, I
because
don't,
they have
I don't
difficulty
necessarily
getting anywhere.
say that
Yeah.
that's what you should do, but somehow the kids in Panacea need to be able to get to
Right.
the center. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know if you can spread your resources that, to everywhere somebody needs, but
We're
if you
keenly
can
sensitive
solve
about
the
it.
problem of getting the buses and so forth.
In terms of, to answer your transportation question for some of the after-school activities that we were proposing, I think cooperation from the school district is going to be important to try to get children who are bused there. But I'd also like to point out that one of the reasons we selected that or like this location so much is because there are a lot of children who are within walking and biking distance. So I think that will help some. It's not going to help the kids in Panacea. But and the other thing is that I've had some conversations with Wakulla County Transportation, and this is really like a really iffy maybe, but there's a possibility that they have to they have to decommission some of their vans, and so there's a possibility that we may be able to get a decommissioned van from them, which would not require a commercial driver's license, and we may be able to do some things like that.
They're able to deliver the Meals on Wheels. The people that do that are all volunteer. They use their own cars and their own gas. So, but you said you have children within the immediate. But your children in Wakulla Garden on the east side of Spring Creek Highway, they can't walk to the to the community center. They cannot make that, and they can't make it from here close to the office. Well, they can. That's a little better, but the whole Wakulla subdivision, the Wakulla Gardens, they can't ride their bicycles and come down Spring Creek Highway. They'll get hit. So that's probably the majority of the kids in the county right there in that one spot.
Yeah, as evidenced by the fact that we put a line item in our budget and tried to get that 5-figure amount of money from the very beginning, we are very sensitive to that issue. We know transportation for our families and our children is an important thing for us to start gathering data on. And that was basically why we're going to have to probably not get it the first 7 months, is because the data, we've got to start collecting data on the youth that would come, the youth that can't come back, the difficulties it creates on staff or other volunteers to get those kids to and from. We'll start collecting that data immediately. We haven't had a community center to base that data and gather it for. And as you know, with grants, every quarter we've got to report a lot of measurables, a lot of deliverables. So data collection, and I'll be real honest, we've started collecting data from Operation Santa because we've got families in need and kids who want to participate in things coming there every day now. And so we're already showing the need, and we're already collecting data. So.
Ms. Arts, I notice behind your name it says MPH. Does that mean Fast Arts? That's a joke.
Oh, Jerry. Just a basic question. Is the Wakulla County Coalition for the Youth and the Life Fitness Consultants on the same page? Are y'all, no overlap of anything? Are y'all, everything jiving good? I mean, I hate to ask a basic question like that, but
Well,
that is the proposal that we're looking at.
right. Well, and I mean, we're committed to working together and managing jointly. And Bruce has said WCCY, which I'm a member of, can work with pretty much anybody. So I think there are some details that we need to work out between ourselves, like when there's a scheduling conflict, how will that be resolved and so forth. But I think, I have been very enthusiastic about this grant from the beginning, and I'm delighted that it's, that it looks like it's going to be a reality. And I think if we do a good job, we'll be able to have 5 years potentially of funding, which would be wonderful.
The grant is
And
going to Wakulla County
McCullough County Coalition for Youth.
Now, I had a call from Nick Maddox some time ago, and he said, Gail, that y'all had applied for a grant to do some renovations at the community center. Is that a different grant?
Yes.
Okay.
With-
Now,
Different
and when I talked to Nick, he said that whatever group he's on the board of directors was going to award that to whoever the county chose to run the community center.
Did you just have that conversation?
No, it's been several weeks ago.
Okay, that is outstanding news.
And how
I don't
much, how much
see-
money is that?
th-
40,000.
Yeah, I mean, it's not...
That was the one that she
They don't
mentioned
give
that
it-
Madeline Carr had
Right.
helped to
They
write.
won't
mention
give-
that.
They won't
Right.
give the
You
grant to the
mentioned
county.
some.
They'll only give it to a nonprofit organization, which leads me to our next question.
We are.
We are.
It is an incorporated nonprofit.
We are a bona fide
501c3.
501c3.
Ms. Archer, is your group, you're the one proposing to, basically, you're the lead agency.
No, actually, that was, the RFP wanted a lead agency, and we felt that the better situation was to have joint, equal partners, and that's why I said in the cover letter that I think the county needs to have an agreement with both WCCY and with us.
My understanding then is in your overall umbrella, you're kind of letting the Coalition for the Youth handle the youth programs more or less with their grant. And use the grant, and that's, I guess that's where, I wouldn't say confusion, but the grant funds some positions. For
Right.
example, when we talk about utility bills, can you pay the light bill, for example, for a walking path? Or can it only be for youth-oriented activities?
No, we can
It
pay
can be
for
for
all.
a community center,
All.
period.
And
Well,
you'll
that
find the
solves-
position description in the package.
That solves a lot of issues if this grant will pay for staffing at the community center, which, as you know, is a major issue. People don't want to spend tax dollars.
Right, right. No, it's wonderful. Now, I think, okay, I don't think it's an either-or. I think that the county gains a lot with both, because you have two people and a lot of volunteers with expertise, energy to get things going fast. And I outlined the programs that I was envisioning. Now, this grant, first of all, we don't know when exactly it'll be funded. They are going to have to advertise and hire staff, which is going to take some more time. They're also, they have to, having worked with grant-funded projects, there's always procedures that need to be set up, measurement procedures, and so forth. So I think theirs is going to be a building, and then we can also build, and then kind of, once they're more up to speed, kind of transfer some things over to them.
Gail?
Specific to that question, yes, we are ready to go. Workforce Plus is ready as soon as we say there's a contract. As soon as we have a contract, we reach out to Mr. Edwards on development of a memorandum of understanding or a contract or whatever formal document we need between the coalition and the county. So all of that is ready. I mean, the documents are done. The paperwork is with Workforce Plus already. And in terms of quick, Workforce Plus is handling everything, and they know that there is a sense of urgency. And if what Alpha Prevention Fund reached us today, by 5 o'clock, by Monday, all the paperwork would hit the streets. This would be advertised in all the places that Workforce Plus will hit. And they will handle the interviewing. They will come back to us with 3 candidates. The candidates are interviewed by the governing board of the coalition, and the hire decision is made.
Okay, just a couple of questions.
So it's fast.
Let me ask one question real quick. And I think I've asked you this question, I'm not sure, Ms. Campbell, but the grant that we've got, it's a seed grant for I believe it's 5 years, right? 4 or 5 years. After that, there's an expectation we need to pick it up and run from there with it, or does it roll over, or what?
No.
It's just, we have to prove that we're sustainable after that. The county's willing to pick it up and go with it, right?
Yes, and it's not only the county. Alpha Prevention expects that we sustain this effort. They're looking at the capacity every single year. What have we done to change our dependence on the full cost of utilities or the full cost of programs and services. And so we know that strategic planning is an inherent part of this grant each and every year. And the strategic plan builds toward that 3-year and 4-year and 5-year mark so that we build infrastructure of fee-based services. Nothing is free.
Right, and that was the point I want to make sure the board understands, that, you know, I'm not trying to poo-poo anything, but at the end of the day, we got to. It's one thing to take this money; it's another thing. We got to plan towards a full-fledged community center. This puts us on that trail, and we've got to head down that road, which is okay. It's just I want to make sure y'all understand that it's something that has to be funded in the future.
Ms. Arch,
Yep.
what, imagine a scenario, let's say that they get the grant.
Right.
Okay? Give us a scenario a year from now when your time is up. What would you envision? And let's say nobody steps up and wants to fill your shoes, and what then?
Well, okay. I'm hoping that the programs, like the preschool program, the after-school program, that once the hard work has been done of getting those programs developed, getting volunteers recruited and trained to run them, that then it'll be very easy for staff who are going to be busy doing a lot of other things to continue those programs.
The staff hired by the grant.
Correct.
Say.
Correct.
Are everybody on the same page with that?
Yes, in fact, one of the position descriptions includes grant writing. The
Okay.
reason that we're here is that somebody was able to put the time and energy into writing.
And we also budgeted for marketing and advertisement type
Internet stuff, I saw,
expenditures.
webpage.
Yes, I mean, we've tried to be wise in all of the areas and working with the ounce people, looking at the long-term viability of a vibrant community center. And so having a billboard out there that advertises all activities, having electronics in the other grant that allow for a marquee, if you will, to talk to the community driving by there about what's coming to the center. And I guess the most important thing I've heard is everything costs.
Yes.
Turning the lights on every day over there
Okay.
costs. So, you know.
Okay. Could the community center still be used by citizens for other things, like a car show, or if somebody want to have a wedding reception there, or, this doesn't exclude that, right?
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't
And
think.
that's one of the things we need to work, because that is one of the things we would have to be able to do, is we got to have that flexibility.
Trying to make money, too.
One idea I had, I know they do this across from FAMU, is the community garden plots, not throwing a
Oh,
wrench in
yeah,
everything.
community
green.
garden.
I know some people have talked about it in Magnolia Gardens, about, we live on a little 5,500 lot, you
Yeah.
don't have anywhere to go plant car like that, or something
Right.
like that.
And that's on the conceptual master plan, is a community garden. I think we certainly have committed to verbally to Gail and Bruce, and that we will do everything we can to collaborate, to facilitate, to assist. They need numbers, so we'll have, the numbers that we generate, we'll direct over to them. Because we want to see, like Bruce said, we all want to see it be successful.
We just don't want to see it fall apart.
All right, I'm going to give you a business comment. I would look closely at the proposal. I would look closely at our documents that we've given you. Understand that from a business standpoint, you would want to clarify a co-management agreement clearly. I would want to do that from a business standpoint, so everybody understands what role they
Who's
are.
in charge?
Who's in charge on what,
To know who's in
and so
charge.
forth and so on. And because there is a major grant, if that comes to fruition at that location, data collection's imperative. And I know that there are statements in the proposal that there's not going to be data collected, that it's more about collecting numbers of people participating. If the grant lands, then we are going to be interested about all of that, all of it.
Richard,
everything.
did you have any?
Well, most of the questions I had have already been answered. I just want to say again how supportive I am of the community center and us having the community center. But I want to thank you all for the effort y'all have put into your proposal. I want to thank you.
Thank
One
you.
thing I was wondering, y'all had mentioned YMCA, and I was just wondering, there's a lot of organizations and counties around us that have Big Brothers and Big Sisters programs. And I didn't know if Big Brothers and Big Sisters of the Big Bend had any interest, or anybody had asked them to see if they had something they could bring to the table too.
They had been approached initially when the Y was first contacted, but I think the Y had exhibited more sustained interest.
Big Bend, Big Brothers, Big Sisters has just entered agreements to be in our middle schools. They are there now, recruiting mentors for young people. They're active with the coalition, and I feel, without giving you a promise, confident that there are a lot of partners with the coalition and a lot of other affiliates of those partners who look forward to a place that they might be able to offer the program.
And the Boys and Girls Club and those things.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
4-H,
one.
scouting.
Yeah.
I've talked to a couple of scouting troop leaders who are looking forward to being able to come to the community center. And I know Ms. Arts had that out there as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, this grant makes there's a lot less work that Jim and I will have to do because there will be staff people to do it. And some people, especially with some of the media and the online social networking and whatever, with more expertise, so it'll be done more effectively. So, you know, that I'm relieved. We'll be able to focus more on a subset of things that we can do well. I think one thing y'all need to just be aware of is that we will report to you because you can boss us around and tell us what you like or what you don't like. In terms of the grant, first of all, we don't yet know who those personnel are going to be, the project director. And those hiring decisions are not going to be made by you. They're going to be made by WCCY. And WCCY is the grant. They are reporting to Ounce of Prevention Fund. And, you know, it's a little, they're going to have a little more, I don't know, kind of independence. They aren't going to be as directly responsible to you. But there's so many benefits that I'm not saying that it's not something that we should be doing. I think you just need to be aware of it's a different reporting structure.
Howard, you have some comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You next.
No, take Richard then.
No, I've already. Gail wanted to say something. Go ahead, Howard.
Sorry. So, for me, this is pretty unsettling. I mean, I've been an advocate for the community center, and I think everybody wants a community center. But to be dealing with something that we don't even have a contract in front of us is for me, pretty unsettling, with however the good intentions are. And to have co-directors, think of any corporation with co-directors, I don't think it works. I think there has to be somebody that's principally in charge of the operation. So those two are really big concerns. The transportation, I think that's always been a really big issue in this community. It will continue to be, and we really have to address that, and I think we have to partner with the school system. I think Superintendent Pierce is really open to looking positively at those relationships, and I think that there will be an ability to solve that, at least part of that transportation. So a couple of the questions I have from all of the sort of rumors and stuff that have been going on, like if we start down this path and whatever happens, and I hope it doesn't fail, but let's pretend it's not sustainable, and we get to year 3 or 4 or whatever it is, what are the consequences to the county? I mean, do we just say, well, it didn't work, and whoever the granting agency says, we tried, and that's the end of it, or are there consequences? Do you know?
Commissioner, I first of all, honestly, I never enter anything with the intent of failing, and I believe we can capture the data to support what we've been told are the key partners' roles and what is expected. If it ended, worst case scenario, something fell apart, the state stopped funding the health department, so the health department had to pull out and didn't have programs to bring, we would be involved in trying to grow the community center from day one and building other partners into it. Again, the 6 key ones that are here are only the 6 key ones here today in the proposal because they can immediately start. In 4 years, you never know, and I agree, you never know what's going to be happening, and we would have to have begun immediately marketing, building, adding partners, adding programs that are within the same realm of concept for serving families, serving children. And so I don't think we could fail at that, but is it a reality? And then you've got a $45,000 director that has to be eliminated and no longer there. And then we start back with finding volunteers. That's what I think would happen. We would go back to having volunteers to be bringing programs to keep a community center open. We would certainly be building paying customers for that period of time where you've got family reunions and all kinds of weddings and whatever other activities where you can rent it out throughout the 3 or 4 years as well. So
Okay, let me maybe focus it back a little better. Maybe I didn't do a good job. So I was at a meeting last night, very successful organization. No need to think of failure, yet they're developing a plan B. What if? What I'm asking, do you know what the consequences are to the county if this doesn't work? What, you know, we're committing to this 5-year path, we're going down it, and somehow it doesn't work. What?
I would imagine until we get that grant agreement, you don't know, right, Bruce? They don't know.
Well, and that's
until we
the
get the
answer.
grant agreement.
I apologize unfairly to you tonight.
Yeah.
We don't have a contract to show you.
And that's what's unsettling to me in this discussion. For me, you may need to be the entity that is the principal at some point in the future, but right now, I think the county has to deal with what it knows it can deal with. And that's the, you know, so let's get past that, and let's go, I've had statements that this grant, Ounce of Prevention, is specifically related to children at risk or whatever the, you know, I just want to clear it up. I'm saying that's what's out there in the community, and I want to get some direct answers on it. So this money is not targeted to a specific group of kids with specific needs. It can be used for a general community center as this community.
To a
Great.
community center that brings in all activities, all access to activities by all members of the community.
Great. And then, what about the statement, if the board doesn't come to a consensus tonight and sort of give a head nod walking into the commission meeting tonight, that we'll lose this grant?
I haven't heard that at all.
Okay. Those are my questions.
David, specifically, what do you need from us for direction?
Well-
I know it's an agenda item December 7th, right?
Not. Yes, it is, but from listening, we've got a couple of choices here, 2 choices. One is do we move forward with the RFP as it's presented tonight and wait for the grant and add the grant on later, or do we wait and award the grant and then the RFP all at the same time once we've worked out that organizational structure?
You said award the grant. What,
Well, we accept the grant, accept the grant
the grant,
from,
Ounce of Prevention?
that's the Ounce of Prevention
That's
grant.
going to them, though, not
That's
us.
right. No, what I'm saying, though,
Back to you.
is it still comes, ultimately, it comes back to us
Yeah.
you know, all this talking that we're talking about here is assuming that this Ounce of Prevention grant comes through.
Yeah, I don't think we can really make a logical decision until we know about the grant.
Right, so I reckon from an operational standpoint is, do we want to wait until we know we have that grant and join these 2 together, or we want to go ahead and, on the 9th, and award the grant to the one, to Ms. Arts, or,
Isn't the Ounce of Prevention a private funding group? It's not a government entity, right?
It's private, nonprofit, 501c3, yes.
I couldn't foresee them making you repay it then if it's a private
I don't
grant.
know, I'm just asking the
Well,
question.
You don't
I
know.
agree, I agree.
Yeah.
Don't know till we read the
Speculate.
agreement.
I would say my personal direction would be, let's wait till we know what's going on with the grant, before we proceed.
And so I have a question, maybe board administrative. We've been down this path with grants and other entities obtaining the grant, managing facilities, Maritime Museum being one of them, et cetera. Why are we not, as a county, being more proactive, seeking grants, or are we,
We've got 13 in the works right now.
for the community center?
One of them is for the community center, yes, sir.
And what would that do?
That's a FERDAP grant.
What would it result in?
For outside play, for an outside bathroom and for the play, what do you call it? Playground facilities. That's what a FERDAP grant will pay for, so that's what we're going after. Also, we'll be applying to the RTP program for the trail system there as well. That's in the hopper just as soon as we get awarded, get the final stuff, we get awarded for the one for Azalea Park. That's the next one that's going in.
And don't forget about this $30,000 or $40,000 that Nick Maddox was talking about.
Yeah, and we also we were awarded the $400,000 HUD grant to build the gymnasium as well. So.
How does
We
going
received
down
that-
this
that money?
path,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
how does going down this path affect the county's ability to manage its community center?
Well, what I see this is a good opportunity for this. This is a vision thing to me for Wakulla County, because this is something that we can build on. This a seed grant, so therefore, if we work it right as well with the volunteers of Dr. Hilliard and Dr. Arts, they can actually help us build a structure there that, if we're smart about this thing, that we help in the process of managing this whole process all along. So in that 4th or 5th year, whenever the chop point comes for this grant, hopefully we can have this facility, and that would be our goal, to have this facility where it can fund itself with its own management entity there, and that it can fund itself, because it's something that is needed in our community. But that's the only way we've got to go into this thing. We don't need one of the problems that we've had with the Maritime Center. You know, as you may or may not know, you realize it now, that didn't stand a snowball's chance of working. And this has that shot, but we've got to go into it in 2020 vision, understanding this is going to potentially cost us some money down the road, but we've got to say, what steps are we taking every year? And I think this helps us get there. But that's the ultimate. We got to say, yes, is this going to be a community center? If it is, this is our best shot.
Okay, so...
I'm sorry, you probably didn't ask for all that.
That's more than I ever wanted to know. No, so going back a step and then going forward, with regard to the Maritime Museum, I did speak out, and I did question it. I did vote for it also, but I did speak out. I brought up all of those reasons why it looked like this was going to be an almost impossible road. But here, I think it's a different case, like you say. I think we're dealing with volunteers, and we're dealing with more volunteers that have proven track records in our community. Both entities have done a lot for our community. And if this is the skeleton, if this is the framework that we can drape our mantle over and move forward, and at some point in the future it becomes the community center run totally by the county, that's the vision I'm looking for also.
And I think this is to me, I know I'm not a commissioner, but I can say it anyway. To me, this is the community coming together and helping the county get there. I mean, it really is. I mean, because everybody's going to have skin in the game at this point in time. So y'all are not going to want, at the year 5, you're not going to want to see this thing fail. So you're going to help us, help you, and help the legacy that you've built here. And that's, anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all of you for the efforts that have gone into this, and just just a reminder that, you know, we've all committed to move forward with a community center. We know that, and so, to me, this is just the single best way to just get this thing out of the gate immediately. It's almost like it's a golden opportunity that's just dropped in our lap at the right time. I'd like to talk a little bit more about transportation, and if I'm saying anything out of turn, please correct me, any of you. But kind of relating it to the 21st Century Learning Center, the school system sends buses to them, and they use grant money from the 21st Century to pay for that. This grant has $24,000 into it, and I know we still got to work out the final amount and the details, but in concept, there's money there that, you know, that same thing could be applied at the school system. I've spoken to Bobby Pearson, and he is certainly willing to do that if he can do it at no cost to the school system. And so I can't imagine that would be a problem if we've got the ability to fund it. At least we've got the funds there. We certainly have to see the terms of the grant to make sure that we're not going to be boxed into something that we don't like the continued cost down the road. But, you know, even if this thing was up and running for 5 years and it went away, well, at least we've got a 5-year shot in the arm to try to make this thing work, and hopefully have some fee-based charges along the way where we can start bankrolling that money going forward to help it sustain itself. Some things that I don't think we're really hitting here. There's $4,800 in computers, $10,000 in equipment. We already talked about the transportation, maintenance of the building, $6,000, $23,000 in insurance. The advertising and web design, that's $9,000, $24,000 in utilities. So we've gone from the YMCA, where we were going to fund a major portion of that, to now we've got money coming in from an outside entity. So as long as we're comfortable with the terms of the grant and our ability to move forward after, when and if it expires, I don't see how we can pass up on this.
Okay, real quick, Jerry, then we're going to get a consensus, okay?
Basically, this thing is going to come to a head in 5 years. Hopefully it'll continue on. I'm trying to work a way of developing a recreation facility, a large one, that will bring tournaments into Crawfordville. And if we can do that, that thing should be up and running in 5 years. It's just a matter of getting it done. But if we can do that, then we can pull money from one rec product over into another product and keep this.
All right, David, what direction do you want? What do you need?
Could I make one comment?
1 second.
Okay.
Do you have what you need?
I think the general consensus from what I'm picking up is that we'll wait till we get the grant, the grant applicant, or the information on the grant, and at that point in time, once everybody's looked at it and we're all okay with it, we'll present you guys with the plan that wraps up.
Because if they don't get the grant, we're talking about a whole
Then
different animal.
that's right. Then it's a whole different animal,
Everybody
which
agree
is
with
fine.
that?
Yes.
Al?
But we move forward in that direction. So anyway, that would be the best way to bundle it together and come back to you guys.
Everybody nodded their heads, so yes.
Yes.
So we're
clear.
saying that if this grant is delivered as presented, then we want to move full speed ahead with that, and we want to accept the grant as long as we're comfortable with the final.
As long as we're comfortable with those terms.
We
Right.
have another decision to make, but we're not going to make that other decision until we know about the grant.
That's right. That's right.
And some organizational things need to be resolved.
So can we give them the go-ahead to pursue the grant and start working out
They've
those
already,
terms?
they're pursuing.
Oh, they're
it.
doing
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Arch, real quick.
Okay.
We're going to get something to eat.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know how to phrase this. All right. We're eager to get started sooner rather than later. We made our initial offer at the beginning of September, and we've been working, but we haven't been working as hard or able to do as much because there's not certainty. And I understand wanting to wait till you find out about the grant, but they've been waiting to hear on the grant for a while now, and I hope they'll hear soon. But if it's going to be a long time, I'm asking that we not be slowed down by that, because I would really like to have things going in January, February, and through most of this school year and then into the summer, and then I'd like to start phasing out and transitioning in the fall.
Do they have any idea, Gail, do you have any idea when you'll know, or?
We expected to hear Friday, we expected to hear today.
So let's,
Okay.
the next meeting's December
Well-
7th.
Because if you haven't heard by the December 9th meeting, let's just say for whatever reason, there's not a definite decision regarding to the grant, I guess I would still want to either know, yes, you guys should get started, or no, we're just going to let the grant do it all. That's kind of where I am.
My thought
So.
would be, even if we don't get the grants, then yes. If y'all can make it work and you're not gonna cost the taxpayer.
I'm with you on that.
I agree. Let's wait a little while though and try to get everything done at one time.
I think
I'm gonna
it's-
use your hand motion, one time.
So I think but it's reasonable to use that December meeting as our,
Is that,
And I don't have a problem with any of this. Operation Santa's in there till the 14th.
not a deadline.
No,
Not a
I
deadline,
understand,
just
but
say-
we've got, and I ask all of you to come by and stick your head in there and see the enormity of that operation. And obviously, the other building under construction is still occupying the other side. The gymnasium floor is scheduled to go down when it goes down. But I know this is about getting donors and about getting support.
Right, and one of the things that
Yeah.
we've got to do understand is we got to write the agreement.
Right.
All right.
Yes,
And so
we have an
it's
MOU
awfully nice if we can,
proposed
if we
with ours
can
as
wait
well
and
with
say,
you.
okay, here's all the components together versus doing yours.
Right.
Yours, but I agree. At the 9th, we could always get started on your agreement. By the time we get everything agreed on, it won't come back for the board till probably the end of January, 1st of January anyway. So there's a time frame in December for us to work on that, and maybe by that time the grant's in as well. So even if we do move forward on the 9th with, say that's a drop dead, then at least that still gives us another 30 days past that.
All right, we're adjourned, let's get a bean.
Thank y'all so much.